We are getting more people in the waiting room. Okay. So again, thank you so much for joining us for our professional panel series on education. My name is Kevin Fleck. I'm the Assistant Director for Employer Engagement at the Career and Professional Development Center. And I would like to welcome our panelists, and I'll give them a chance to kind of introduce themselves as well. Again, this is being recorded, and if you would like to tell your friends or someone who couldn't make it that it is going to be up on our YouTube channel, they can see that at that time. We have a great set of panelists. We have some questions that I have prepared, but if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can also raise your hand if you have the newest Zoom capabilities and things like that, or you can also type in the chat and I can ask them. So, well, let's get started. So can you, just to the panelists, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and a little bit about your school or program? And Mary, why don't you go first?
Thanks, Kevin. My name is Mary Fleck. I'm the principal of Divine Mercy Catholic Academy. That is a pre-K to 6th grade private Catholic elementary school in Johnstown, PA. A little bit about Divine Mercy is we are Catholic, so faith is a big piece of it. And here we really focus on student growth. So a lot of time spent at DMCA is working on individual needs of each student. So that's kind of a little quick promo of DMCA.
Thank you, Mary. Amy, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Horwath. I am the Vice President of Mission Services for Goodwill of the Southern Alleghenies. So our mission at Goodwill is to empower individuals and their families, individuals with barriers, to reach their fullest potential through work services. So we hold several different contracts. My role in the call today has to do with our Title II contract, which means that we are the adult education provider in Cambria County. So we work very, very closely with the Career Links and the One Stop Operator to provide adult education and literacy services in Cambria County.
Thank you, Amy. And Cam?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cam, Jason Cameron. Everybody calls me Cam. I am the Director of Human Resources for the Seaford School District in Seaford, Delaware. But about 20 plus years ago, I was one of you. I'm originally from Johnstown, PA, a transplant that moved down here in 01. Our school district is in Western Sussex County. So if you know anything about Delaware, most people know about the beaches. We're in the same county, just the opposite side. They got the surf and the sand. We got the chicken and the farms. But we're a district of about 3,300 students, 4 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. And I will tell you, if you're from the area there in Cambria County, in Indiana, wherever you happen to be, it's a lot like back home, as I like to say. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Cam. And Greg?
Thank you, Kevin, for including us today, and great to be with you all. My name is Greg Ackerman. I'm recruiting director with ESF Camps. ESF stands for Education, Sports, and Fun. And we operate summer camp programs, mainly in the ages of 3 to 15. Our camps are in Pennsylvania, mainly in the Philadelphia area, and also in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Maryland. We operate multi-activity camps with a variety of activities. We have multi-sports camps, specialty camps in arts and STEM. And then we have partnerships with professional sports teams in which we run day and overnight camps for 76ers, Phillies, and then also Arsenal Soccer. And we recently added Brooklyn Nets. So it's great to be with you all today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Greg. And Rick?
Not sure if he heard you.
Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Rick. You can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, Kevin. Thanks again. And it's a privilege to be here with you today. I believe that this is my 40th year in education. Within that time, I've served a number of different roles from the classroom to administration. Currently, I serve as a consultant, and we are focused on building individualized systems for students. We also have a keen sense of trying to grow our staff to the full potential too. So, as I said, it's really kind of a dual-edged thing, and we try to make sure that our families receive kind of, I guess, what they're expecting as far as potential from the whole system. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And thank you all so much for being here. We have a great panel. Again, if you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can also type it into the chat and I can ask our panelists. So thank you all again for telling us a little bit about yourselves. Just thinking about education in the world of today. Can you tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has changed how you teach or how you run your programs or things like that? And what ways have you innovated to meet the needs of your students? And anyone can.
So how much time do you have, Kevin? That's the question of the year.
Take as much time as you need. Well, Cam, can you tell us a little bit about how Seaford has adapted?
Sure. So now that we're a year away from, or a year in, however you want to look at it, from the pandemic. So at the start of the school year, we were hybrid. We had students coming in 2 different groups. Monday and Tuesday was our blue group. Thursday and Friday is our gold group. And then Wednesday was a remote day for all. So as we have gone through the year, we've gotten that up to most students coming in 4 days a week, but still that Wednesday being remote for all. Really, the big change is the use of technology. We were using technology before, but now it's depended upon. And also all of our students now are one-to-one. We weren't one-to-one before the pandemic, and now we are. So that has kind of changed the way that we've done things. And as we look to next year with the hope of 5 days a week, full school days in the fall, what can we take from the pandemic and still incorporate into our teaching? Are there some students, are we going to have the ability to maybe have a virtual academy, allowing some students to still attend virtually? Are we going to still be able to have the one-to-ones? So students will have, we're able to maybe do textbooks on our Chromebooks rather than on, the traditional textbooks. So those are some of the things that we're working on, but flexibility has always been a key in education. And just so you all know, you're in teaching, we ask you to be flexible. It doesn't change the further you go up the ladder, because it's all about flexibility at every level of education. And so we've asked you to be even more flexible. And really what has happened with us is our younger teachers have been instrumental in us being successful, because they understood a lot of the technology and the systems better than some of our veteran teachers, and have been able to support what we've been able to do in the school. So, that, and, no water fountains. I think those are probably the 2 biggest takeaways as we move through, but we're certainly getting back to a little bit of normalcy. And the hope is come fall, we're back to what we know as normal.
Thank you, Cam. Greg, can you tell us a little bit how the pandemic has changed what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I'd be happy to address it on the camp side of it. So rewinding back to summer 2020, for safety and public health reasons, we did cancel the majority of our in-person programming, but not all of it. We did 2 things last summer. We did do virtual programming in a variety of activities that went very well. It was done very small scale. And then we ran some in-person camps, mainly in partnership with our Phillies camps, our 76ers camps, and Arsenal soccer. We felt like in those situations, the environment was controlled. We implemented safety protocols around each of those camps, trained our staff, oriented the parents, had lots of communications, and thank goodness, we were able to get through the summer, without incident. And the camps went well. And the reason why that's important for 2021 is it gave us the confidence that we can do it. We can run camp in a COVID environment, and we can adapt those safety protocols across into the programs, really our full lineup of programs. So what we're doing now is making adaptations to our programs for COVID, such as smaller numbers and changes in the activities. And then we operate our camps at schools, and we have to have a lot of communication with our site partners so that we're on the same page with them and their protocols. And of course, we're licensed, so we have to follow our licensing protocols as well. And but we're excited. We are enrolling for in-person camps. We are hiring for in-person camps. The camps will be smaller, but we are running our full lineup. So we are grateful for what we've learned. My hat's off to all of you, the schools and educators, for what you're doing. I'm a parent, and I could not be more grateful for what teachers are doing. So thank you for what you all are doing.
Thank you, Greg. Amy, can you tell us about how the pandemic has changed what's happening in GED?
Absolutely. So I was sort of waiting for one of the folks, and Cam sort of covered this in elementary and secondary ed, to talk about changes that they have made, because so on the adult education side, a lot of the changes that we have had to make are sort of a result of the needs of our students, many of whom are parents or caretakers. So as the changes took place on the elementary and secondary side, so did certainly our adult education. We shifted as well. Obviously, virtual and remote learning ramped up. Our program did not have any remote classes pre-pandemic. So we have engaged several classes, many different options of learning. We've got hybrid, we've got full remote. We do have now face-to-face classes, of course, as does everyone, have safety protocols in place, social distancing, all of that. So our capacity is very, very limited, but the learning became much more individualized. As per a person's, again, we serve adults. So as per their availability, we have adjusted the learning, similar to, an elementary or secondary nature, but the pandemic has definitely sparked innovation, I will say. On a staffing side, it sort of forced a lot of expedited learning of different tools and different technology. And I believe the word flexibility was already put out there. Never has there been a year for more, a higher demand of agility and reacting. As a professional on this call, as we all have experienced, that immediate need to bump and shift and change. And again, learning became more individualized for us. And we knew we had to offer a variety of modes and really just customize a lot. So many, many changes for us.
Thank you, Amy. And Mary?
Like kind of what everyone said, DMC was very similar. But one thing in reflecting back over this past year has really been for me parent communication, especially if you're a first year teacher. You kind of get that hesitation of, talking to parents and talking to families, and the pandemic kind of forced that. Your parents were your partners in education. If the parents had something that were going wrong, they reached out to the teachers and vice versa. And even on the administrative side I think, we've written more parent communication than probably the last 5 years in the span of this pandemic. So that's also kind of an underlying thing, was that parent connective piece. It had to be strong. There was no other way to basically survive unless you had that parent piece.
Thank you so much. Just moving on from that, I can see that we've all had to innovate, from pre-K all the way up through higher education. So it's definitely something to see how we're all meeting the needs of our students as well. So just thinking
Kevin,
about—
I would add to that, maybe. Sorry, Kevin.
No, go
I
ahead.
would add to that also too, that I believe that what we've attempted to do is we have a foundation basically of servant leadership, and we try to permeate that really through not only our faculty, but also even to our students. And so that foundational piece is, as a leader, what do we need to be able to give to you for you to be successful? So we started off really, and it's, the technology is necessary, but we have to keep in mind that it's not the thing. The end game truly is essentially the consumer of that technology. It's really just the vehicle to get the communication, to establish the relationship. So really, I guess maybe the thing is the relationship. So we started off by really educating our staff in trauma-informed practices, and so that they could understand perhaps what families and students were dealing with, and even more so themselves, what they were dealing with. And we also reached out and we formed some partnerships with the local university and a local arts group that we could provide mindfulness sessions, not only for our students, but also for our faculty too. And we have established time throughout the day, mindfulness lunches that we regularly schedule for our faculty members. Because again, it's the idea of I have to know myself and I have to be at peace with that first before I can reach out and be effective with you. And then, as I think some other people have said too, our approach differed just a little bit because beyond even the mindfulness then too, we brought in other components such as art to allow for student expression, because students don't always express their feelings or not able to express their feelings in the same exact way. So some of those avenues were perhaps maybe just a little bit different than the typical approach to things.
Thank you, Rick. And kind of, thinking about that, what are some skills that you think an incoming teacher would need to be successful in education? And anyone can take that.
I can
I
tell
would
you that
say
what I would
that
look for.
Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, sorry. I think, first and foremost, what I would look for probably is that idea of empathy. Someone that could reach out and establish, relationships with people, so not only students and families, but also their colleagues. Someone that had an understanding of that or who was able to develop, that quality. I think would probably be a primary quality. Obviously, kind of that innate educational knowledge, current best practices is also extremely important. Familiarity with technology, probably something that's also very important. But probably those three things I would say to you. I would say, the idea of, empathy. I think the best practices, and then also too, probably a familiarity with technology.
Thanks, Rick. Cam, what do you think about the skills that a person would need to be successful?
Well, Dr. Huffman hit a lot of things to nail on the head there. I mean, having the technological skill is so key with how we were doing education before the pandemic and now during, and then what it's going to look like afterwards. I really think that a person has to come in with an open mind to what their experiences they've had in education, whether it's as a student or as, in the time they're student teaching, because wherever they end up, it's a different school, most likely it's a different district, maybe a different state, and everybody does things just a little bit different. And so I would just say be open-minded to what the expectation is from your principal, what the expectation is of the district as you go forward. And, willing to still be a learner, because, you know, I'm 20 years in and I learn every day, and that has to be the mindset that you're going in and you're going to learn. And the object is to we talk about is working with a purpose. And that purpose is to get better at everything you do.
Thank you. Amy?
Sure. So from the adult education standpoint, so, you know, I'll stick with my flexibility and agility. I think the primary and key to any position in education now, and probably always, but now more than ever. For us on the adult side, so our educators need to have the skill of keeping the content relevant to the adult learner. So depending on what the career pathway and what the career goals are of the adult learner, even if it is someone who is sitting in one of our classrooms to acquire his or her GED, that long-term goal is really the end game. The GED is a necessary credential to get that person to achieve his or her goals, but their long game is really our goal. So what's the career goal? So our educators need to be very strategic in linking occupational skills training with the content necessary for them to earn the GED credential. So, you know, strategically developing lesson plans that include career pathways and, again, relevant information depending on what their career goal is. So that's definitely a skill that is needed in adult education. And I believe Dr. Huffman, he did mention those relationships. Really, I have to agree fully that that is really what allows the learning to blossom, I guess, and take place. So that establishment of trust and that rapport with students is huge, very, very big, particularly in adult education. In fact, we have a person on staff who is the title is student support specialist. So while we are educating, we are also working to help remove barriers that may be preventing that person from being in the prime sort of mindset and environment for learning, much like the mindfulness that was mentioned previously. You know, if you're worried about transportation or childcare or food security, you're probably not going to be in the best frame of mind to absorb a lesson in math. So our team works to try to, you know, remediate any barriers that our learners are experiencing.
Thank you, Amy. Greg?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I really appreciate all the comments from Cam and from Dr. Huffman and from Amy on all of these areas, because we're coming at it from a little bit of a different way. Because we're hiring mainly for summer positions, we want our camp program to be a stepping stone for a person who's looking to work with children as a career. And that's the one I'm going to start with. It sounds so obvious, but you have to want to work with children. And that's one of the first questions we're going to ask. You can certainly have skill in an activity or a subject area. That's crucial as well. But you have to want to work with children because it takes so much energy. And what we, as a camp, every camp wants their campers to have a great time, and so do we. But we see one of the secrets to that is that our team members have a great experience. And that starts with them being able to learn, being able to build on their own career. And if they can come out of an ESF experience having learned things like safety protocols, behavior and group management, being able to help and assist with a variety of activities or instruct those activities if they have background, so that when they come to your schools and interview for positions at your schools, that if ESF is on their resume, we want a school or a school district to say, oh, okay, so that they learn some things at ESF, and that's our objective. And if it's at a university, you know, we would like professors to see the ESF experience as something that complements what they're trying to teach in education and family and child related fields. So we truly want this to be a stepping stone for people, and we want them to come out of an ESF experience with those skills, because we do hire a large number of college students and grad students, And then those teachers we hire, which we hire them too, we hope that we know they're going to have a lot of experience and knowledge, but we hope they can maybe pick up something and maybe refresh and remotivate and pick up some things that they didn't previously know because they were around building those relationships with their colleagues and learning from other people. So that's what we hope to gain, is that win-win situation where people can build on their career by working with us.
Thank you, Greg. And Mary?
So I agree with everyone and kind of what they said, but from my perspective, I manage elementary school day to day. So my biggest thing is flexibility, kind of what Amy said. Especially this year, I would walk up to a classroom and be like to the teacher, hey, you're quarantined for 2 weeks. Pack your bags, you're out the door along with your kids. Kids will come and pick up their stuff. And I was astounded how every teacher would be like, okay, this is what we got to do now. Having that flexibility and understanding is the biggest one for me in managing teachers day to day, because the classroom does come along with many things. It may not be a pandemic, but there's always something. There's always something that happens. You know, the schedule's always changing. There's always an event. There's always this. So managing day-to-day classroom teachers for me is that flexibility and understanding that we just kind of have to get through it and we have to get it done. And then you come back and you reflect. That's a big piece that took me a while as an educator to kind of get the hang of. And that's kind of a piece of advice that I even give my own teachers, is to stop for a second and reflect on what you just did, because it will make you mindful of, I could have done this a little better. Or, no, like we did that really well. So if this happens again, I'm ready and I don't have that same anxiety. Is the stopping and reflecting on, you know, your lessons or on a schedule or on whatever you're doing, just kind of stopping and reflecting on it.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for your answers on that one. You know, we can definitely see that the skills that people need are things that, you know, you continue to build, and something that we learn in the classroom at IUP and something we continue to work on in our out of classroom activities as well. One of those activities I want to remind everyone of is PERC, which is the Pittsburgh Education Regional Consortium. It's coming up on March 24th. And if you are a student, you can still register to attend. It is a career fair. And I think that it will be virtual again this year through Career Fair Plus, I believe. And if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to our office and we'd be happy to help you. And it's a great way to connect with school districts and with other programs as well. Not only in the Pittsburgh region, but also from outside as well. We have school districts all the way from Alaska who attend. So it's great to always hear about those unique possibilities as well. So again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute or to message me in chat. I see that we do have some chat going on. Thank you, Cam, for your information. And again, just thinking about whenever you came into the field of education or whenever you started, what is some advice that you can give to someone who's just starting out? What is perhaps some advice that you would give someone now, or some advice that you wish someone had given to you whenever you're first starting out in the field of education? And anyone can go.
It's okay to make a mistake. The world still goes on. It's okay when you get your first parent complaint. It'll work out. It's a lot of, and I'll put myself in this boat, but I see kind of a lot of same trends in my teachers. Is we're kind of all a little bit on the type A personality and kind of so used to having everything in a row that, you know, working with people, nothing's in a row. And it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to go to your principal. It's okay to, you know, have a parent issue that you work out. You don't have to be perfect. It'll work out.
I think, Kevin, I'll just kind of jump in, you know, to just kind of go from what Mary just shared. You know, it's the challenges and the mistakes that offer the greatest opportunity for growth. Most times you kind of don't necessarily want to be in those situations when you're there, but in retrospect, you can look back at and you can say, well, you know, I learned this, and then you get that to move forward. When I was in school for elementary education, I think one thing that resonates with me that I never realized would be so important, and even though I'm not necessarily a teacher in the direct sense of the word in a classroom, in my role as a leader of a mission division for a nonprofit organization, you know, I was asked in college to compose my philosophy of education, right? And you pull from theory and, you know, what you learned and all of this. But I think that the core of the philosophy of your philosophy of education, really, regardless of the career path that you take, like, wow, I mean, I can go back and kind of read that and I can see some leadership qualities in myself now that, which is many years later, that actually sort of existed at the core back then. And I never realized in writing that piece for whatever that assignment was to get that, you know, to get that grade or to put in my portfolio, which was a binder way back when. I'm dating myself, but you know, it's very, very important. So I think you want to know why you're in the field, whether or not you land in front of a room of students in four walls, or whether you land on a panel with other professionals in what is now a trend in teaching. You know, we're all taking part in a trend. Like, wow, it's just why you choose the path that you choose is what is going to continue your ability to succeed in it. So I think for the students that are on the call, you know, when you look and you say, what inspires me? Why did I choose this? Those are the reasons that you're gonna succeed. And I think that's very important to know why you're in education and what is your philosophy. What do you want to change? What can you bring about in people and your learners?
Thank you so much. And we actually did get a question over chat, so I'm just going to throw that out to the panel as well. So what is all of your opinion on what helps a person stand out on their resume whenever, especially when they're applying for a position? As you know, you get many resumes. What do you think can give a person an advantage, or is there something that you always look for that makes them stand out?
Kevin, you know, a resume, you know, you're trying to sell yourself on two pieces of paper. The first thing I would tell you is to try to limit it to two pieces of paper. Anything else in that you're looking at so many of them, sometimes you lose track. One of the things I always look for is any leadership roles that you had. And it's that, you know, if you were a captain of a sports team, if you were a treasurer at a sorority, somewhere where your peers elected you or chose you or something that showed you have leadership capabilities, because that shows me that you're probably gonna be able to lead a classroom in some capacity. So that's one thing I always look for. If you have any prominent on your resume. So those are two things that really jump out at me when I'm looking at a resume.
One thing, and I've noticed this, you know, especially for this year, I had to call a couple people, because if you are an instructional 1 level certificate or any certificates that you have, please put that on your resume. It shouldn't take me calling to be like, are you certified? Like, that should be that. Just a couple. I had like 3 of them, but I'm like, you may want to put that on there.
Those are great points. I would just add on our end of things, when we're looking at resumes, we're looking for the things that everyone would think of: the experience working with children and background and activities that we offer. The two things I will mention: one, I know there's different schools of thought on using an objective, but if you do use an objective, make sure it fits the job description you're applying for and avoid generic objectives. It's an immediate, it can be an immediate differentiator. If you write a good objective that's tailored to the organization you're applying for, it can really jump off the page, and it can be an immediate turnoff if it's not. And then the other thing I would say is more of a logistical thing that's indirectly related to resumes, is when you do apply, and you're asked to provide references, please make sure you give your references a heads up that you've applied and that the employer is contacting them. If there's one thing that can hold up a great candidate from being hired, it's the reference checking. So I would just dot that I and check, cross those T's on that part of it, and it can save you some delays in an employment decision.
One other tip that I have, and this might just be like a me preference, especially if you're emailing your resume, because that's how people will apply is email me, is save it as a PDF and send it to me, because it may look one way on you, like your Word document at home, but then when I open it, it may not look exactly the same. So if you save it as a PDF, whatever you're seeing on your screen, I'm going to see on my screen. So that might just be a me preference. But if you have to email one, just switch it to a PDF.
And if I could piggyback off of that, if you're doing a cover letter, make sure if you're sending several cover letters, you're sending the right cover letter to the right district or school.
So I'll offer one more thing. There's lots of tips, like make sure your email addresses are appropriate, make sure your voicemail's set to receive a call from the company, and so it doesn't kind of put anybody off. Whatever slick message you might have on there might not be what you want your future employer to hear. But one thing that I look for specifically on entry level positions, so to the students on the call, those jobs that you have right now, honestly, if I see food service, retail, any type of longevity in a job, what to some is just a job. Sometimes people have career goals in retail and food service and other things like that. But if you are in what is just a job for you right now, I want you to understand the importance of what you're doing, the skills that you're going to pick up going through a Christmas season, working for a busy retailer, or working and succeeding at a fast food restaurant as a drive-through attendant. I watch sometimes what the drive-through attendants are doing, and the ability to talk to someone in their car while they're giving me my change and being polite and saying thank you, things that you are doing now. You might think, oh, it's just a job, it's gas money, it's this, it's that. It's super important. And I think if you can maintain some type of a working record while you are achieving your goals in college and working toward that career goal, I find those types of jobs important on a resume for entry-level positions.
Thank you, Amy. Rick, did you want to add anything? Rick, did you want to add anything?
I think that I agree with Ms. Horwath, and I think that overall, and I'll just share this, is that, I think that if you've chosen education as your profession, if you've done that, you've probably chosen one of the four most important jobs, professions that you could possibly choose. If we talk about, as parents, family, your faith, I think your health, and then probably your growth. Education is simply that, it is growth. It is not, and I would hope that, and I would think that Corey would probably also agree, is that education, teaching is not unidirectional. I'm not teaching at someone. Okay, I'm truly a learning facilitator. Each child is a puzzle, and I have to turn that just a little bit just to get it right for that child. And I think that attitude, that idea that it's not about just me teaching you, it's about a journey together. How can I maximize your potential? How can I find that way? How can I find that pathway for you? And overall, I think that's truly what being an educator is all about. When Amy said about taking those responsibilities seriously, that even though it may not be your chosen profession at this stage, it's part of your own growth. Those are adding skills to your skill set that you will then again translate to others at a different point in time. So, I think that's my primary thought, is that it truly, really all is about that idea of growth.
Thank you all so much. And something else you can definitely do to help you with your resume is come visit the Career and Professional Development Center. We have some great ideas for resume writing, and we have some great programs that you can attend as well. And you can always look at our website for more information on those. So just kind of wrapping up or running out of time, is there anything that we didn't talk about right now that the panelists wish to discuss? Something really quickly. And I am going to put Qualtrics survey link in the chat if you could fill that out as well if you're a student. And go ahead, anyone who would like to go to talk about something that you think we need to address.
I certainly will add the plug to use the Career Center. I know an earlier question is if you had something to do all over again when you were younger. I wish I had used the Career Center better when I was a student, but honestly, I think that's critical. There's so many more resources now that the Career Center at IUP and other universities have that it's so critical, and it goes beyond resumes and interview skills. But I think that's a great resource for students, and I think the students that do take advantage of it are ahead of the game.
Thank you, Greg.
Anyone else like
Yeah,
to add
Kevin,
anything?
I would add a thing to that too. And I would say that, I think that most people that are undergraduates, they're on the verge of being what they hope to be as professional communicators, and keeping that in mind too, whether it's the cover letter, whether it's a resume, whether it's follow-up communication, you are actually in that process, you're educating the employer about yourself. And, essentially, those 4 21st century skills, being a problem solver, communicator, collaborator, and innovator. How can I get that message across to the employer? How can I let them know I can help you solve your problems? I think that's very important. And so I would encourage everyone to look at it, reverse the lens a little bit into what is the employer looking for and how can I communicate that to them?
Thank you, Rick. Does anyone else want to have one last comment?
I just, you asked before about what we wish we would have known, but just some general things. As you come into this profession, you're coming into what I consider to be the most rewarding profession that there is in this world. And you get to give the greatest product, which is future. And that's how you have to approach it. Other countries revere teachers at the levels of doctors and lawyers. I don't know why we don't do that here. Maybe there's a little bit more reverence now after this last year, but I just make sure that you're building relationships, you're being genuine, and that every decision you make is in the best interest of your students.
Thank you, Cam. And I want to thank our panelists again for their time today. If you would like to connect with them, you can always contact us. We can get you their contact information. A lot of them are on Handshake as well, where they do post jobs and things like that. Again, please remember about the PERC Career Fair. I did paste the link to that into chat. You can register up through the 21st of March if you're a job seeker, and it is taking place on the 24th, which is next Wednesday. So if no one has any other questions, again, I want to thank our panelists for their time today. I want to thank all of the students for attending. If you have a question you couldn't ask, or if you would like some follow-up, you are always free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. And please remember to visit the IUP Career and Professional Development Center and use our services as you would like. Again, thank you to all our panelists, and I'm going to stop recording and